All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ryan with Plan Chats. Happy August. Happy what their Washoe County teachers are setting up their classrooms, getting ready for students next week. So hope everyone is out there doing well, staying safe, socially distancing, and wearing your mask when you are in public. But um, thank you for joining today. We are very lucky to have Kurt Thigpen with us. And Kurt is he's up here in Washoe County, and he ran for the school board in the primary election. And Kurt had so many votes that he does not have to run in the general election in November. So he is our incoming board member in Washoe County. So Kurt, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you. Um, let's start with talking about your background in education and kind of what led you to this point of wanting to run for school board.
Sure. Well, kind of my immediate background and link to education has probably been a few things. One has been I've advocated a lot for continuing education. I did it whenever I was the president of the American Advertising Federation here. We had a strong partnership with the Reynolds School of Journalism, provided scholarships for them for years. I think we've to date raised over $300,000 in scholarships for them. I have given a lot of talks at different universities and have been invited to give lectures in the past, do a lot of public speaking around continuing education around, mainly around advertising industry, because that's what I know. And then my sister-in-law goes to Worcester. We've been heavily involved in her education since she was in middle school at Bond. So yeah, that's kind of my direct ties.
And then what led you to wanting to run for school board? What was your motivating factor there?
Lost my mind. No,
Yes.
no. There were a variety of things that were happening. If a lot of the viewers may remember last year, we were having a very, very sharp increase in pedestrian versus car fatalities, or not fatalities, but incidents, and one fatality up here in Washoe County. 26 students alone last year had gotten hit by a car trying to go to and from school. So with the one fatality happening at Worcester, that was horrifying when you have a family member that goes to school there. I started using my connections in local government to see what could be done, and seeing all the red tape and people asking, well, who are you to care about this as a private citizen? That was really the spark that kind of lit my flame of like, well, okay, maybe I'll run for office and they can't ignore me then. And then, I've always advocated as well for more equity in our schools. There's a disparity among people of color in graduation rates, as well as LGBT students making it to graduation. So that's something I advocated for a lot on the campaign trail, as well as, having some transparency on the board. I'm a communications professional, so I hope once in office I can help bridge some gaps and improve our communication structure within the school district. So yeah, those are kind of the big things that I talked about a lot on the campaign. And this was pre-COVID.
Yeah. Normal life, right?
Yeah.
Although is a campaign normal life? I don't know.
It was very different than what I'm used to.
Yes. What were speaking of campaigning, what were some surprises or challenges um, that you experienced during the campaign season?
Well, what was funny is I had started campaigning in January, and then when I filed in March, 3 days later, we went down into quarantine. So I had just bought all this print material to go door knocking with. And so I quickly realized that we were not going to be knocking on doors. So what can we do? So that's when my marketing advertising skills kicked in, and I worked with my campaign manager to create a strategy on how to reach people safely and in a very empathetic way, because with everything going on, you don't want to set the wrong tone while campaigning, right? You want to be respectful of what's happening. So we just started doing things in the community first, and then as time went on, then we started advertising just to get the word out about who I was and what I was running for and all of that.
Were you, I'm sure this is a yes, but were you, was it a sigh of relief when you realized you weren't going to have to campaign in the general election?
Oh yeah, but it was like it was drawn out because that was, was a not a write-in, a mail-in election. And so the primary night we're waiting, and then they're saying it's not going to be till 3 a.m. until results come out. So we went to sleep, and then somehow my body's internal clock was like, it's 3 a.m., wake up. So check the results, and we were at 51% at that point. And for those that are watching and don't know, if you're in Washoe County running for a county seat, if you get 50% plus one person, you win the seat outright in the primary. So I didn't want to claim victory immediately because I knew votes still had to be counted. So we went through a week of that, of waiting, of just saying, I hope we hold the 50%, thing. And of course we made it to 53%, which was a big surprise to me. So yes, big sigh of relief. And it's just been very strange to just kind of watch all my friends that are also running in campaigns, like just kind of still, go through it. I'm like, good luck.
Right. Let us know how that goes, right?
Yeah, I'm here if you need me.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Definitely. We are very excited to have you as a trustee in Washoe County. So
yeah,
congratulations.
it's biggest honor I've experienced so far. So I'm excited.
So you take office in January?
Yes.
Okay. And what are some things, what are some goals you would like to accomplish on the school board?
I think some of the things I'd like to see, and that I talk about a lot in the campaign, and I think we're going to need this now more than ever, is trying to make sure we have as much equitable resources for our students across the board in our schools. And I know that's been made complicated by the pandemic, but it's something we're going to have to chip away at and keep in mind and not lose sight of. So I'm very, very forward thinking on making sure that no matter the income level or wherever a student lives, that they should have the same amount of resources available to make it to graduation day. There should never be a student who says, well, I didn't have access to this or that, so here I am. So that's kind of the top of mind issue for me right now, especially with everything going on.
Yeah, the pandemic has really revealed the inequities amongst students. So when we're talking about laptops or access to internet.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember, I grew up in the rural South. And so where I lived, they still had dial-up. So, and this was not that long ago, because I'm not that old, but we had to actually go to the library to get access to the internet. And what a lot of people don't realize is that's still the case for a lot of people, especially, who live, kind of further out in Washoe County. So, yeah, so I hope that we can start bridging those gaps.
And I know you're an avid reader. And so tell me about, like, because I know you're very passionate about having students improve reading, enjoy reading. And so what would you like to see happen in schools in terms of reading?
I think we have to, and I know that we are introducing reading at an early age, but I think there are better ways that we can go about it for sure. I know that one of the challenges we're going to face is Read by Three program, losing its funding in the legislature. So I would like to try and partner up with some nonprofit groups centered around literacy, hopefully that can help with that. But I learned to read in kindergarten. And I know from the research I've done, from people I've talked to, that's not always the case for a lot of folks. It might be later on. And sometimes it's a struggle, especially for students who English is their second language, and they're just trying to get through school in general. So I would like to introduce reading earlier. Some programs, and this was one of my favorites actually in school. One of the few things I liked about the Georgia education system was the accelerated reading program they had, which for me, I'm a very competitive person, so that was kind of fun. They would, make it kind of like a competition of like, who can read the most books. So I remember going to the library every week and like, okay, I'm here for another one. So I think if we can make reading more fun, more engaging for folks, and try and engage with our students' interests, I don't necessarily think that a required reading list is always the most helpful thing. Because who wants to read Moby Dick, Ryan?
Right.
So, we have to find ways to engage with them and things that actually interests them that they would want to read about, right? So I think that's where we start. And I think once kids start reading, their horizons start to broaden slowly.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That kind of brings me into my next question, because in Nevada we have the seal of biliteracy,
Mm-hmm.
and reading is a huge piece of the seal of biliteracy, right? So like reading and speaking. But for all our language teachers out there watching right now, talk to us about how the value you see in students learning languages, including maybe age groups or young students possibly learning languages, because I know people are really interested to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, and I have to admit, and you and I talked about this, I did not get the opportunity to learn a second language in high school. I went to very, very low income area, so it's something I want to catch up on myself. But for the research I've done and who I've talked to, I think that learning languages will help bridge gaps in our communities, not just in education, but between students, their friends, all of that, kind of bridging culture gaps, right? So we can learn more about each other, become more of a knowledgeable, acceptable society. That's number one for me. And then number two is, there's the career aspect. When we have such a diverse country, there's no reason why we shouldn't be investing more in being bilingual. Learning Spanish at an early age will only set you up for success later on in whatever industry you choose. So I think those two things are probably the most important, is having a better society where we're all more tolerant and accepting. Because having grown up in the South, I've seen the very bad side of that when that's not the case. So I'd love to hear more on what your thoughts are.
Yeah, we need more empathy and understanding right now, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more than ever.
Yes.
At least in my lifetime.
Oh yeah.
But so you didn't take a language in school. What language would you want to speak?
I would start with Spanish, just because there's so many people that speak Spanish now. I mean, I have friends that teach Spanish, and even in my day job, I have found that I needed to hire a copywriter that speaks Spanish because I can't, to get work done. So there are practical reasons for needing to know it, so that I can be not just a better human, but also better at my job.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that. So last question I have for you. It's a fun question. Well, I hope it's a fun question. What is the thing you miss the most about being in quarantine for 5 months, or lockdown, or however you want to put it? But what's the thing you miss the most about normal, regular life?
That's a good question. I think the most cringeworthy thing right now is just, when someone gets into your personal space, it's just like, oh, you were doing the wrong thing and you know it and you're still doing it. That's I would like to, go to the grocery store or just be out and not be afraid of getting too close to people. So I think that's one thing. Not a very fun thing, but for me, I'm just like, I would like to not be afraid of my neighbor
Mhm.
anymore. God, what else? I think just being able to travel, anywhere right now would be great. I mean, we went to a client a trip out in Sonoma, which is beautiful, great drive, but we couldn't do very many things because so many places were still closed and social distancing and all of that. So there are rules around everything. So no rules would be cool to have again.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I miss live music. I'm a
Yes.
concert junkie, and I think I've seen like 600 or 700 concerts in my lifetime.
Wow.
And this is the longest I've ever gone without seeing a concert. So I'm like, that's the first thing I'm going to do is buy a ticket to the first
Any
concert.
concert,
Yeah.
just anything.
Yeah.
It could be like reggae, and you're like, if it's live, I'm there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kurt, thank you so much for spending some time with us today and giving your perspective.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really grateful.
Yeah, thank you. And then just to give everyone a heads up for next week, we are going to have Amy Murray, who is a Spanish teacher in Clark County School District. And she is also, not only is she Nevada's World Language Teacher of the Year, but she is Southwest Colts Teacher of the Year. So she is the #1 language teacher in, here I go, listing the states: Hawaii, California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, Oklahoma, and Texas. So she'll be here next week. So quite a resume. But thank you, Kurt, so much. And please stay safe. And we wish you all the best of luck in a smooth transition into the school board.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.